Okay, so for my visual portrayal of the literacy profile and reading specialist project, I've decided to do an in-depth look at the data analysis portion of the assignment, specifically looking at the assessments and resources that the reading specialists for our school district use. So the first one is one that I personally use as the high school reading specialist, and it is one of my most very favorite resources, and that is the Words Their Way Spelling Inventory feature guide, as well as the accompanying word sorts. This is for one of the students that is in my 9th grade RTI class, and you can see that her score is pretty low. And she is going to be placed in the syllables and affixes stage where she'll receive immediate intervention based on her need. This program is also used for progress monitoring, so students are constantly tracked and their information is then reported to their case manager for their IEP management. The next program of use at Interboro is the Barton Reading and Spelling System. Now this program is intense and it's specifically for students who struggle with reading or spelling because they have dyslexia or another identified reading disability. At Interboro we have a large portion of students who are in our life skills programming, and because of that they also receive instruction on the Barton system. The Barton system requires intense intervention from a literacy teacher, and we actually send out some of our co-teachers to be trained with the program, and you are trained by Susan Barton herself. It's really great for any student that's struggling in an area that you're really not able to find a resource on anywhere else. Okay, now as the high school reading specialist, one of my duties is to use the GRADE, which I distribute to all 9th grade teachers. I then retrieve the assessments. I assess those, not by hand, on a fancy Scantron machine, and then I report the scores to the appropriate teachers. The idea with the GRADE is that we are providing the students with 4 benchmarks, one in the fall, one in this winterish, one in the spring, and one before the end of the school year. It's kind of like an informal SLO, and instead of it being reported to the state, it is being used to inform teachers' instruction. The super cool thing that I like most about the GRADE is we are able to see specifically what the scores should be and how we can track them against the national norms. From that, we then get a really strong breakdown that tells us the types of questions that the students will be receiving and under what standard do they fall. It also goes on to show me, as the reading specialist, a range of K-12 concepts that students are being expected to master on the GRADE. For example, the test contains a verbal concept and picture categories K through 12. So when I originally saw this program, I thought, okay, so this is obviously like a kindergarten or first grade assessment, but even the 12th graders are being assessed on the same type of skill. The phonological awareness is often where we see the largest gap with our students. And this is because I believe of the focus on the students being able to master skills that are being required on an assessment as opposed to receiving explicit phonics instruction. So again, this is an example of a portion of the assessment that we're going to see for all students on the GRADE, grades K through 12. Now, the vocabulary is obviously where the high school hones in. This is something that we're constantly working on and towards, particularly the acquisition of vocabulary. Sentence comprehension is a big part. In the last 10 years with the Keystones and the Common Core coming about, we have seen the huge shift from not so much having a grammar curriculum to now constantly reinforcing a grammar curriculum. Again, passage comprehension and listening comprehension, which is read aloud by the teacher. When I first did the assessment, I expected there to be a recording that we would play, and I really jammed myself up not having pre-read the comprehension questions, and I think I confused my students just as much as I myself was confused. So both of these obviously are going to give some great insight as to where the students are within their comprehension abilities. Is it at grade level? Is it beyond grade level? And if so, the amazing thing about the G-RAID program is that it offers us a super specific breakdown of each area in which the students were assessed. So all of this may be, super important to me, but it's going to be this that I am distributing to the teachers to inform their future instruction. Another amazing component of the G-RAID is that it is accompanied by intervention lessons. Now, some of these lessons we have had to plug in some supplemental resources for, but this is what is expected to be bridging the gap between the leveling for one and then the first benchmark, which we're going to see in January. The expectation is that teachers are going to be implementing these resources dependent upon where it is the students struggled. Now, another super cool aspect of being a reading specialist is that you are constantly trying to make sure that you are using the most appropriate resources for the students of need. So this is a picture of me with my sample of the LLI teal colored level, which is specifically geared towards high school intervention. And this is my baby at Interborough. The RTI program did not exist prior to me getting the job. So I'm super excited that I am able to fulfill my role there and focus in on the RTI because we have a large ninth grade group that is really struggling and in need of this explicit intervention. Okay, this is what the inside of my sample from the LLI looks like. Now, I'm not showing you this because I am asking you to look through and figure out, which levels would be most appropriate, but I am showing you this because not only do I need to make sure that I know how I am able to implement resources and coach my peers in the use of those, but I also need to evaluate sources constantly to decide if this is something that we could use. And if so, I then need to become an expert so I can go to my administrators and provide them with the information they need to be able to make a judgment call regarding whether or not this is something that we could be using. Another great resource that we use at Interborough is the MAP testing. The MAP testing is extensive and it takes quite a lot of time. However, it's the project this year that we are making teachers aware of their students' RIT scores. Now, RIT scores are this really useful piece of data that informs educators of where their students are in regards to what it is that they are prepared to learn. So it really helps educators in assessing the placement of their students in regard to a specific skill or standard that is being expected to teach, that we are being expected to teach, and students in turn are being expected to master on the Keystone or the SAT or whatever testing it may be that they are taking. Ultimately, I have found that my most favorite part of being a reading specialist is the resources that I am able to refer other colleagues to using. And in order for this to be most effective, I myself have to be able to model how to implement these resources in a way that is valuable to whomever the teacher is that I am working with.